a star that lights the road. I take this ride. Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it to the light. I take it to the edge where I live 1,000 lives. Or maybe I could be the one right into the setting sun tonight. Just drive.
Welcome to hashtag Ask Crofty, where we thought we'd come out on the track again for the first part of our show tonight because look, we've got running Marcus Ericsson in the Caterham, Jenson Button in the McLaren, and unlike yesterday, I'm having to shout a little bit because we all think the engines and the power units are a touch too quiet this year, but what we've noticed today is that some of the teams have just upped the revs a little bit and these new power units are getting louder and louder, but still a lovely little whistling sound you can hear from the turbo as they put their foot on the loud pedal and accelerate away from turn 2 up towards the hairpin at the end of the straight, where Paul Hembry, Director of Motorsport, has been watching some of the action along with me for the past few moments, and I think liking what you're seeing, if not liking what you're totally hearing. Is that fair?
Yeah, I know we've had a bit of a chat about the noise. I'm a bit of an old dinosaur, unfortunately. I love the noise. But yeah, it's progress. That was what happens. I miss it. But it's very interesting. I mean, the performance levels are improving every session. You're still seeing them having fantastic problems with traction going through these slower corners, which should make for some interesting images, I think, from your viewer's point of view.
But still, we don't need the earplugs when we're stood by the side of the track and one car goes past, which is why the old dinosaurs like Paul here are getting just a little bit twitchy at the moment. And to be honest, I don't dislike the sound of the engines. I totally accept what everyone's saying about the noise, but I just kind of like the whiz-bang element to the new sort of ERS unit that we've got.
Yeah, I get that. It's just, I used to get the old goosebumps when you'd hear the V8s, and going back, the V10s were even better, but, it's like it is. So
the violence has gone, hasn't it, really? There's no violence in the engine, but look, Force India's out on track now, Sergio Perez, and he's just going to let Jenson Button go past. Let's see Jenson Button through these turns. And I have to say, from this morning, it's clear to me how Jenson Button has adapted to the increased torque demands. And a lot of you have been getting in touch with us at hashtag Ask Crofty because we've got some questions for Paul to talk about the amount of torque that the cars have got and that you've had to put up with at Pirelli. So let's start with this one. Mark Young, 87, he says, is there much difference between last year's compounds and this year's?
Yeah, heck of a lot. I mean, we were obviously going to a little bit of the unknown ourselves. When we were doing the work on the simulators, we were seeing wheel spin in third, fourth and sometimes fifth gear. So we knew that wouldn't transpire into what happens on the track because it made you go too slow, but it meant that there was going to be a big challenge in terms of the rear tyre and wheel spin. And here, is a track where lots of traction needed out of the low-speed corners, and for a tyre, this is a very demanding circuit.
So Ernest Santos, 88, says, will your tyres now last longer to cope with that?
Well, we made changes, Last year we had a certain type of input. This year we were still aiming for 2, maybe 3 stops, but we wanted to get the wear levels down. There'll still be thermal degradation, so the teams will have a little bit of strategy to play. I think they've got a lot of other things to be worrying about rather than tyres, but the tyres have been changed dramatically. We've seen already the degradation levels probably halved of that last year, and wear levels are vastly superior.
As long as we don't get lots of one-stop races. I think I'm fair to say there's a lot of people watching will agree with me that we don't want one-stop races as the rule in Formula One this year. What we also don't want is lots of blowouts. Ollie H15 says, have you been able to make tyres that last a little bit longer as Jenson and Sergio, former teammates now in different cars, go past us again?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously had some issues at Silverstone last year, but you saw after Silverstone we'd made changes and resolved that, so it was never intention obviously to have those issues, but yeah, we made some changes, and we don't believe we'll have any issues like that again.
Good evening to Tudwal. How are you, Tudwal? Hashtag Ask Crofty. He says, why don't Pirelli make tyres that grip better and last more for some all-out racing? Now, I'm hearing pure racing, all-out racing, proper racing being bandied about on Twitter, left, right and centre. So, what have you done to give us proper racing?
Well, you need to define what proper racing is. I mean, if anyone watches back any film, actually, I saw it on Sky, actually. I was watching some film of the 80s, the Prost era and Senna era, Mansell, and you'll find a lot of Murray Walker's comments at that time. And in Britain were about tyre degradation and people coming in changing tyres. So that was what happened then. Drivers were managing tyres, brakes, gearboxes as well. So this year I think you'll see that we have got tyres that resist a lot more, less degradation. They will do probably 10 laps more by compound. Moving more towards 2-stop races rather than 3, but I think from what we've seen so far, we've made some big steps forward.
Lots of marbles or not lots of marbles? It's not me that's asking. Some of our viewers want to know what you're going to do about the marbles.
Sure, I mean, a lot of that obviously comes from wear. It's the physical consumption of the tyre and it's rolling off the tyre. So moving towards these different compounds, our intention was to reduce marbles. You don't know until you get to the track the impact, but having seen 2 days here, I think you can see on the track there's very, very few marbles, and there's been a dramatic reduction in marble levels.
We had 660 odd laps yesterday, and I actually went for a run round the track. Paul's right, there weren't many marbles on the track, albeit they hadn't turned the floodlights on when I was out there, when I was running. Irish Tomsey fan, your question about the marbles there. And Mark66 Mitchell, I'll just finish this part and the questions with yours. Why are the FIA trying to slow the cars down? Why do they want to slow the cars down? This wonderful sport is all about speed. Now, as Paul answers that, luckily, Kimi Raikkonen comes into view. And now, this is Kimi Raikkonen on an outlap, yeah? And he's taking it nice and carefully. And we're just going to watch him come through. And he's on the super soft tyre. Now, while Paul answers this question, Kimi Raikkonen's got about 1 minute 40 seconds to get round and then show us how much faster he comes through the corner next time around. It is all about speed. Why are we trying to slow it down?
I don't think it is being slowed down. I mean, there's a big change, and initially there will be maybe a little loss in performance during testing, but we've already seen here, huge jumps in performance over a couple of days. Next week, we know there's quite a lot of aero packages being brought here, and from our evaluations, we believe that very quickly in the season we'll be lapping as quick as we were last year.
I mean, what were we yesterday? About 2.6 seconds off the pole time, which for a test, and such a critical test, I didn't think was too bad at all. While we're waiting for Kimi again, I really am keeping my fingers crossed he's going to come past us. You've got a meeting tonight, I think, with Charlie Whiting about qualifying and some proposed changes to it. Is it likely we get cars being forced to go out in Q3, or are we actually going to keep the status quo?
Well, I mean, we were quite vocal in the past about having to do something, and we were offering to do something about qualifying, and also actually in P1 as well. So you'll see an extra set of tyres in P1. So there will be more people out on the track on the Friday, and that's really for the fans. And there's been some proposals made together with ourselves and the strategy group to make some small changes to qualifying, which we believe and hope that all the teams will accept, and we can start off in Australia. Objective, of course, is to have more cars on the track for the fans.
Thanks, Paul. I hope that's what we get. I'm kind of excited about this season. I hope you are too.
Otherwise, well, what are we doing here? If you're not excited about a new F1 season, then get another job.
What are we doing here? Waiting for Kimi Raikkonen. I don't think he's coming, to be fair. Oh, no, he is. Here he comes. Bang on cue. The Iceman delivers. And you can see, whoa, how much trouble is Kimi Raikkonen having trying to keep that Ferrari on the track? That's the new talk. That's the increased demands that the drivers are going to have to put up with round about 50% less downforce on the rear as well. And I kind of think that's going to be really exciting if we see it lap after lap in racing, and especially in qualifying as well. At least we're getting some laps from the Ferrari as well. It was a bad morning for them, telemetry issues, and they were barely out on the track. Pastor Maldonado stopped in his Lotus, and Max Chilton barely got going before we saw a bit of smoke coming from his Marussia and a power unit change as well. They spent most of the day kicking their heels in the paddock. Join us in a few moments' time. We'll find out what they've been getting up to. Jules Bianchi and Max Chilton have joined us for part 2 of Hashtag Ask Crofty. Welcome back. Gentlemen, welcome. Max, a bit frustrating today, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those days, but you're better off having a day like this now than Friday in Melbourne. So it was good to get the issue out of the way, and hopefully we won't have any major issues like that left for the rest of testing.
Yeah, sadly for Max, he didn't get back out onto the track after he stopped earlier today. That was Paul F1. with 2 L's on Paul, who had a little tweet at hashtag AskCrofty, wanted to know how frustrating the issues are. Your expectations for this year, says James Doles. Jules, what are you aiming for?
Well, obviously last year was a good season for me and for Max as well, so we'll try to do even better. I think we have the potential. We think we have the potential with the car to be maybe fighting for Q2 more often, so we will have to wait and see. But for sure we'll try our best again and try to do some good results and maybe some points.
Yeah, the team boss, John Booth, was talking just the other day about getting into Q2 on a more regular basis. Loads of you have sent us questions for Max and Jules, and a lot of you are saying, including Patrick MC Flair, I hope, Patrick Podrick, I've got your name right there. Do you think you can get a top 10 finish this year? Because there's a groundswell of people that think Marussia could be in the top 10.
Yeah, well, that's our goal. This is Marussia's 5th year, and that's been their target for the last 4. Even in 2012 at the end in Brazil, they had a really close chance at getting it. So we were hoping last year we would have got it. We had a 12th last year. So we're there or thereabouts. You just need a bit of luck on your side, and hopefully the car's got a bit more performance this year, and we'll do it, which will be amazing for the team.
OK, new rules, new regulations, new power units. Tom Jackson says, have they taken anything away from the sport from a driver's perspective? I've got to ask you both on this one.
But I don't think so. At the end, it's still a Formula One. It will be maybe a slightly different way of driving, but at the end, it will be still the same way of pushing and trying to get the quickest lap time as possible in qualifying, and then to be constant in the race. So I think it will be just really similar to last year.
So that's a no from Jules.
I think it's added. The only thing it's taken away is we now don't have to activate the KERS. That's all done on the throttle, and it's all preset. So that's the only thing it's taken away. I think it's added more of a challenge to the drivers because we're now all experiencing things we've never experienced before. I've only done little mileage, but the way the power comes in is quite tricky with the turbo, and then you've got the ERS kick in. It is quite a handful when you do get the power down, but it's really exhilarating when you do get that power down because there's a lot of it.
And you've got this new brake-by-wire thing that everybody is talking about and saying it's hard for the drivers. You've barely used the car with a brake-by-wire in the dry. I think you've had a little bit more running. Is it more when you put your foot on the brake pedal, is it that much harder now?
I experienced it in Jerez, and we did have this weird sensation where you hit the brake pedal, and in the past you hit it, it's really hard, and it gets even harder and harder and doesn't travel much more. In Jerez you would hit it, and then it would start to take over the braking for you, and the pedal would fall away like you had brake failure. But the mileage I've done here, I haven't experienced anything odd, and it's been absolutely fine.
I tried putting the brakes on in a Ferrari simulator once. I was doing a lap of Spa. The car barely slowed down. It was set up for the brake pedal pressure for Fernando Alonso. Do you have a lot of brake pedal pressure on yours or not?
Yeah, you have to push hard the brakes, and this is the same as last year. Anyway, I think Max tell everything about the new rules and the new brakes, and it's a bit different, but the idea is the same.
OK, final question to you both on this one. It's the most important question of the night. Carl Healy wants to know, if you were to have a charity boxing match, who would win?
Well, I think we will try both to beat the other one,
Yeah, OK, Max?
Let's not try it. It would be close, though. We're a similar height, similar weight, and we're both determined to succeed. So.
Yeah, you've probably got a longer reach. I think Jules will be a bit more agile and nimble.
Maybe, yes. We have to try.
Should we go?
Come on. Hold the pose, boys. Hold the pose.
Actually, you don't want to be that near.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's good. We've had the weigh-in, we've had the face-off. Round 2 tomorrow night, everybody. Although Max Chilton probably says, I'm a lover, not a fighter. Yeah? As I'm sure Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder said once. Boys, thanks ever so much. You too. And best of luck with tomorrow as well, and have some more running. Great to talk to the Marussia guys today. Really frustrating day for them. Sorry, Pete, I've just got to do this. Sorry to everyone watching as well. We go from hashtag AskCrofty to Crofty's notebook now. Well, it's kind of a bigger notebook than you would normally see, but I've had a lot to write down today. Starting at, not Marussia, Caterham. Because Marussia only did 4 laps. They had to change the power unit, and these things are not the work of a moment. The best Renault mileage today came from the Caterham boys. 98 laps for Marcus Ericsson. Well done to Marcus Ericsson. He's now past 300 kilometres and he gets his super licence and he can race in Formula 1. So that's fantastic to him. Where's the Caterham garage gone? Oh yes, it's way down there because of course they're right at the end now because of Marussia's 10th place last year. It's clear, though, that they've turned the turbo boost down on that Caterham. They've turned the revs down as well. They're just trying to get as much mileage as possible, and that's how Marcus Ericsson, excuse me while I scratch my nose, managed to get those 98 laps in. But still, a really good performance from him. Williams, what a morning Williams had. 55 laps for Valtteri Bottas. Not a single time lapped amongst them, because he went out and he came in, they did a pit stop, and then he went back out again. And he repeated the process for 55 laps. Some really intensive pit stop training for Williams this morning. Felipe Massa took over the car this afternoon, did 60 laps in his Williams. A 1:37.0 was the third fastest driver. Really good mileage for Williams, 115 laps in the day, kind of continuing where they left off yesterday. Some really good reliability from them. Right, where are we going to go next? Toro Rosso. Not a bad day for Toro Rosso. And Daniel Kvyat, who's getting used to the car, his first season in Formula One, and he got 57 laps in and finished 7th fastest. And I would love to know what they're talking about, but it's probably in Italian at the moment, so we won't say too much to our Toro Rosso comrades. But it was a decent day for them. Out on the track, the car still looks a little bit of a handful, but they got the miles in. That's the most important thing. Rachel Brooks from Sky Sports News waiting to do a little interview with Sauber's driver, Esteban Gutierrez, who got 96 laps in today and finished 4th fastest. Lots of lockups from Esteban Gutierrez out on that track. We certainly saw that, but the car getting some reliability in. In fact, I had a conversation with Adrian Sutil, who takes over running again tomorrow, and he was saying that they've done the numbers, they've crunched the numbers a little bit, and they think that the Mercedes at the moment has a top speed at the end of the straight here in Bahrain of 330 kilometres an hour before they put the brakes on to go into turn 1. That is more, probably about 10 miles an hour more than the cars were getting this time last year. We'll talk more about Mercedes in a moment, but Adrian was actually saying he's quite enjoying driving at the moment and certainly settling in to his new team, and quite likes the fact that they're only just down the road from his home and he doesn't have to travel very far. Force India. Now, bit of a bitty day today. Not my quote, that's Bob Fernley, the deputy team principal. They had a battery cell failure in the morning, few niggles in the afternoon as well. Nothing major, just niggly little issues. Sergio Perez was driving today and he finished 5th fastest, and we've got him on the show tomorrow. Hashtag Ask Crofty. That's what you need to put on your tweets. If you've got a question for Sergio Perez, we will put it to him and he'll come and join us on the show tomorrow. But another decent day for Force India, 5th fastest for them. Right. Onwards and upwards through the paddock. Evening, chaps. Cleaning tyres. What a wonderful thing to do in the paddock in Bahrain after a long, hard day. This is the kind of time of day where the day shift now kind of just wind down a little bit, and then the night shift come in and have to work all hours to try and put things right. Down at McLaren, though, a really impressive day. 103 laps for Jenson Button, 2nd fastest driver. And I was watching the cars down at turn 1 and into turn 2 and 3, where you need to be really careful on the throttle. You need to have the right application. Kimi Raikkonen was kind of squirming about and struggling with his Ferrari, but Jenson Button, lovely and smooth through there. And the McLaren looks a really nice drivable car at the moment, and it's certainly shown that in the times and the laps that they were getting. So he'll be happy with his day, and for another reason as well, but we'll tell you about that in a moment. Lotus, oh dear. One wag at Lotus told me today that his highlight of the day was when he heard on the radio, Pasta, box, because it meant he was coming in under his own steam and he wasn't coming in on the back of a truck. 2 red flags brought out by Pastor Maldonado today. What's the problem? Batteries, energy stores. It's Renault-related issues that Lotus are suffering problems with. Remember, they're a test behind because they weren't at Jerez, but they're struggling a little bit. And Maldonado only got 26 laps in today and spent a long time in the garage, but it's power unit problems, not necessarily mechanical problems on the car, because they just can't push the car to its limits at the moment because they can't get the integration with a new power unit absolutely spot on. But it was a really difficult day for Pastor Maldonado and for the Lotus team. Onwards, evening, to Ferrari. Now, the pecking order at the moment seems to be 4 Mercedes teams and Ferrari. It's Mercedes Power and the Ferrari team themselves. They are there or thereabouts if you just look at the times. They've not had it straightforward all day. It's not been the simplest of days for Ferrari. Telemetry issues once again for Kimi Raikkonen. Got 44 laps in. As I said, the car looks a bit of a handful, but the times were there. 6th fastest today, and they are there and they're up there. That seems to be the pecking order, although one very well-placed source thought that Ferrari was still behind the Mercedes-powered teams. That's from within a team that's kind of crunched the numbers, and they think it's, you know, 4 Mercedes teams and then Ferrari just under them. We shall see. But they keep having telemetry issues as well, so they're not acquiring all the data that they would necessarily be wanting, which is causing them a few issues, as you would expect. Right, let's go past now to Mercedes. We've not talked about Mercedes. We're going to end up right at the end at Red Bull. Really good day for Mercedes. It has to be said, of all the cars on the track, that looks the most drivable at the moment. And Lewis Hamilton certainly much happier with his car today, and so he should be. A 1:34.2 was the best time, only a tenth of a second slower than Kimi Raikkonen's FP2 time from the Bahrain Grand Prix last year. Alonso in FP3 was a 1:33.2. They had the soft tyres on. They were going for one lap pace, focusing on one lap pace rather than race distance pace. Puts a lot more stress and demands on the car. That's why they only put 67 laps in, but they're happy at Mercedes, and you can tell. When people like Jeff Willis from, you know, the aero department, one of the technical directors, is walking around, eating an apple, chatting away, being quite relaxed, you know that they've got a decent package there. And yes, there are issues. There are issues with every single car that they're finding out when they go and do a few runs, but there are issues that are put right and are not causing them too many problems. And I think Mercedes have had a decent test so far. The time's certainly bearing that out. Pete's turn round and we'll see who's had the worst day today. There we are, ladies and gentlemen, Red Bull Racing. Now, behind these screens, and we can't go any further than this, is a Red Bull car that was taken apart this afternoon. They found a mechanical problem with the car, and they decided rather than going out to run any further, they disassemble that car, they take it to bits, and they try and fix the problem overnight. But it left Daniel Ricciardo with a sum total of 28 laps. And a 1:47 for his fastest time. It's clear they've not yet got to the stage where they can turn up the turbo boost, they can up the revs, and they can start to concentrate on performance, because reliability is still very much their issue. Christian Horner, Adrian Newey, they were here yesterday, they flew back overnight, they've not been at the track, they're back in Milton Keynes trying to fix things. I can hear a dentist drill. Yeah, they're working on the car again. The fixes that they brought quite clearly are not working the way that Red Bull would have wanted them to, and it's getting to the stage now in the second half as we stand of pre-season testing that the time is running out for Red Bull. They're lagging behind Mercedes, they're lagging behind Ferrari, they're lagging behind McLaren and Williams and Force India. It is not going right, and Daniel Ricciardo, ever optimistic, still thinking that he's got a chance in Australia, but knowing that time is running out on this one. He said even if we lose the first 5 or 6 races and don't win, we can win the next 10. Well, that's a good way of looking at it, but they've got to start playing catch-up a little bit, Red Bull, and it's not going quite right. They'll fix the problems, I'm sure, but it's just a case of when. I'll give you an indication as to how bad this test has been for them so far. 100 laps so far this week. Jenson Button did 103 today. So they need to play catch-up. And talking of Jenson Button, congratulations, mate. He's got engaged. Jenson and Jessica will be man and wife, and they've got engaged. There's a huge big diamond ring on Jessica's finger and a huge big smile on her face as well. So Daniel Ricciardo not smiling too much tonight. Jenson Button, for many reasons, is smiling, and that's great to see for him. Sergio Perez, as I said, tomorrow on #AskCrofty. Join us for the final day of this second pre-season test and get your tweets in. We'll see you back tomorrow.